The Dolorous Blow. Dolorous Blow. Dolorous Blow. In the Green Pheasant Inn at Taunton, Taunton, Mass, perhaps, a little out of the way tavern in a back street of the ancient town, on one of the chilliest mornings of the eventful March, Persephone Spear sat on the bed where she and Philip had been spending the night. She sat there in her white slip, her straight Artemis shoulders bare, pulling on her black stockings. Philip had just gone to the end of the passage to take a bath, and the girl could detect now, amid the other early morning sounds in the small hostelry, such as the bootblack replacing commercial travelers' boots at their several doors, such as the housegirl bringing cans of shaving water to their door and giving bold, shameless knocks, such as the barking of dogs in the cobbled yard, the trampling of an old horse in its stable, the scrubbing of a motor car in an open garage by a whistling boy, the sound of the rush of water from the bath faucet. The girl's whole nature felt as if it were drawing itself together into a little round ball, tying itself up into a little tight knot, and making itself as small and hard and unattractive as it could possibly make itself. She treated her slim, boyish legs very roughly as she pulled up her stockings. She thought, oh, if I can only get my stockings and skirts on before he comes back, he won't touch me any more. With vicious jerks, she did get her stockings on, and then, heedless of the dust on the carpet, she stepped into her skirt, allowing it to trail upon the floor. The pattern upon the carpet consisted of big, bunchy roses, each rose encased in a square frame of dull brown lines. The disgust she felt as seeing her nice gray skirt in contact with this horrible carpet made her prick her fingers as she pinned the black band with a big safety pin. My waist has never looked so small, she thought, and indeed the use of the safety pin had come about because, after the excitement of her experience in Wookiee Hole, the band of her skirt had become too wide. Hurriedly she rushed to the chair where her gray jacket was lying, and pressed one arm and then another breathlessly and violently into its reassuring tailor-made protection. Artemis-like, she had found that by and by far the worst part of her affair with Philip, and it had been just the same with Dave, was the fact that she had to undress and be made love to without the defense of her sweet-smelling Harris tweed jacket and skirt. I like driving through the lane, she thought, by Philip's side while he gets fonder and fonder of me, but can't touch me. I like his kissing me and hugging me so hard the moment he gets me alone, when the long drive has excited him to such a pitch. I like the way his cheeks smell of the wind and of the fresh dust of the road. I like the dinners we have together in these places with the shy young waitresses at table, and the impudent hussies in the bar, and the yard boys touching their cropped foreheads, and sneaking a look at my ankles, and staring so respectfully at Phil. It's these nights that are so awful. Oh, why are men made as they are? Why are they made as they are? What's the matter with me that I shrink from these nights with Philip so, and yet enjoy the days with him? Do other women feel what I feel? Is there some deep, secret conspiracy among us to be silent about this loathing of skin to skin? This disgust of the way they are when they have their will of us? Am I betraying some tragic silence that nature for the beginning has imposed in dark whispers upon her daughters? Is the pain of ravishment only one of the inevitable sufferings of girls, laid upon us since the dawn of time? Is this shrinking, this loathing, something that every girl feels? She took up the comb to comb up her short, clipped curls. Damn, she muttered out loud. Her anger rose up suddenly against all the intolerable things a person has to put up with. Her anger rose against the washing stand, with the two white basins stood side by side, and the soap dish into which she had put a piece of lavender soap, which Philip had now carried off to the bathroom. I wonder, she thought, whether this double-dyed asses of Glastonbury aldermen, now that they've selected Gerd, We'll do what I suggested to Dave and try and start a real communistic factory. Something on a much bigger scale than this silly souvenir business. She stood in the middle of the room holding the comb in her hands. Impelled by a lurid fascination, she moved to the door and opened it gently. Gently. Biting her lower lip as she turned the handle. She was met by that combination of curious stuffy smells which a bedroom passage in a small inn always exhales. The passage was full, too, of that particular morning light that seems to have nothing to do with the sun at all, that seems to come from some reservoir of pallid terrestrial illumination that is neither natural nor artificial, but is a light especially dedicated to inn passages when only the boots and the oldest of the housemaids are stirring, and a smell of cigar smoke and stale cheese pervades the staircase. She continued to hold the door ajar as she leaned forward listening, her unwashed eyelids still heavy with sleep and her chestnut curls all tumbled and rumpled. There was the sound of Philip's splashing. It came from behind that door, with a white marble plate upon it carrying the words bath. Persephone listened to it with petrified attention. Do all girls, she thought, feel these queer sensations of lurid attraction and nervous disgust towards men? How much more conscious a girl is than a man of the relations between men and women. I know that at this moment Phil is enjoying his bath, its precise depth, its exact heat, the fact that he brought his big sponge just as a child might enjoy these things. He's forgotten altogether about my jumping out of bed and staying so long at the window in the middle of the night. He's practically forgotten that I exist. She was not far wrong. Extended at full length in the bath, luxuriating in its hot water, for there was no bathroom at the Elms, Philip's thoughts might be expressed as follows. Warm. Nice. Soap. Nice. Stain on wall shaped like Barter's profile. Start digging in Wookie. Except for old Murray, not a soul knows. A lot of tin in Wookie. Diabolus metallorum. Plumbum candidum. Hermes. Stream tin. Alluvial deposit. Tourmaline. Spar. Quartz. Stannic oxide. Cassiterite. Stannic chloride. Purple precipitate. Purple of Cassius. Tin salt. Tin crystal. Tin ash. He began to derive extraordinary satisfaction from taking up his great sponge, filling it with water and squeezing it over his knees with both hands. The sponge became the hill above Wookie, where he intended to mine for tin, and his knees became jagged fragments of this precious alluvial deposit, and the waters on either side of his thighs was a subterranean river. Let Geared have his pageant, he thought. Let him dig up for Merlin's tomb. I'm going to dig for tin, Diabolus metallorum. I'll turn this town into something different from a humbugging showpiece. I'll sell my dyes and I'll sell my tin and to all the dealers in Europe. What a good thing I'm not responsible for purse. Let Monsieur Agateto support my sweet cause, while I enjoy her at my leisure. He began to squeeze his sponge with its still fiercer pressure and still deeper satisfaction. He found that there was a little window pane opposite him, where the colored glass had been replaced by ordinary glass, and out of this window he could see quite a long way over the roofs of Taunton. He even fancied he could see the ridge of the Paulden Hills between two chimneys. He propped himself up in the bath on the palms of his hands. But the ridge vanished then, and in its place rose out of the great Taunton church towers, celebrating all over Somersetshire, and only rivaled by St. John's at Glastonbury. The sight of this religious edifice, so tall and massive, disturbed and current of his thoughts. He sank back in the bath. Once more that little far-off line between the chimneys reappeared. Automatically, he began squeezing his big sponge again, but the water was getting cold, and the sight of that tower had broken up his complacency. What did she do that for? He asked himself, thinking with a frown of the incident of the night when the girl had jumped out of the bed and stayed so long at the window. I don't believe she'll bear me a child, he said to himself. There's something about her. No, she's not the maternal type, my sweet purse. There's no getting over that. He gave himself up then, as he got out of the bath and began hurriedly drying, to his own peculiar and favourite voluptuous thoughts. Every man has his own set of voluptuous images with which his mind tends to dally at such a moment when his body is glowing and refreshed. Philip's thoughts had to do with Persephone's bare shoulders as they looked. Not in her nightgown, for she dreamed like a boy at night, and though this would have pleased John, it did not suit Philip, but in her slip. It was therefore no little blow to him, for he had anticipated quite the contrary, when on his entering their room with a quick, sharp knock, he found her fully dressed and seated again by that accursed window. That moment was indeed a fatal and memorable moment in the history of their relations. It was as if in the process of his bath and of her combing her hair, a deadly gulf had yawned between them. She was seated on the arm of a chair and leaning against the windowsill. Her pose was withdrawn, chaste, reserved, remote, her face cold and pale, her eyelids half closed. She was intently surveying the head of the old carriage horse, whose hoofs trampled on its stable floor had drummed a bitter tune into her mind at certain intervals during the night. The old horse was peering out of the small, square window, and the lad who had been cleaning the motor car was stroking its neck. He was still whistling the same tune, and as Philip paused at their window to follow the girl's gaze, he started singing. I've made up my mind to sail away, sail away, sail away. In the colonies I mean to try. The lad sang in a silly, drawling voice. He's heard that tune on his roundabout, remarked Percy, drawing in her head and evading the arms for which Philip attempted to capture her. I used to hear it when I first came to Somerset. They stood side by side for a moment without touching, watching some pigeons that were fluttering about on the stable roof. Philip felt obscurely angry with these sleek birds whose wings gleamed like a metallic shimmerings in Wicky-Hole. Their chucklings and croonings made an orchestral accompaniment to the lad's voice. Persephone said to herself, Damn! 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 How can I get out of having to submit in this sort of thing with him again? As she turned back into the room, their eyes met, and both of them knew without the passage of a word between them that the barrier had sprung up which it could not be very hard to destroy. It would be very hard to destroy. Well, well, he now remarked with forced jocularity. If you're satisfied with your concerns, run down while I dress and see how long we've got to wait for breakfast. I'm due at the office by 9 this morning. There's a lawyer for Yeovil coming in by the early train to see me. She looked at him coldly and quizzically. What trouble are you in now, Philip? Have you been found out at last? She spoke at random, but when she had spoken she wished that she hadn't said just that. Philip's swarthy cheeks had darkened, and she saw that this lawyer from Yeovil was coming on such a pleasant errand. As a matter of fact, Philip had summoned him because of a paragraph in the Western Gazette that looked extremely like a covert reference to Jenny Morgan and her child Nellie. Good Lord, Perce, he cried, pushing her to the door. Don't begin intervening reasons for my legal interviews. Why, I've got a whole series of lawyers coming to the office this week. Today is the most harmless of them. And that'll do it for today. Now the so-called stay-at-home order is lifting tomorrow in Rhode Island, but I'm frankly not going anywhere, so I'll continue doing these readings till the cows come home. If the cows ever do come home, who's to say? Well, until next time, I'll see you in Glastonbury. Cheers.